play.
Okay,
Can
I think we're on. Can you what?
Can I, um, watch, um, watch Wildcats on the TV?
Yeah, just for right now. But when I'm done with this, we're getting off of it.
Wait,
Okay.
Mom,
Yes.
can I watch anything on the TV?
No.
Just
Good morning, if you're there. This is like a new interface for Facebook, just when I had sort of figured things out. Oh, good morning, Molly. Glad you're out there. I couldn't quite see if anyone was on. I did this yesterday. I got, right before all this began, I thought of things that I could get for our 3-year-old to do during this time. And so I got a bunch of contact paper and tissue paper. I never get on Pinterest, but I got on Pinterest and I thought about this. And I found recently that I thought, I'm going to make my own stained glass window for this season. To have something of our sanctuary with me in my office. And so I did this last night. Just to say, all those crafts that you get for your kids, which I never do. I am not a crafty person. It is not my spiritual gift. It's not what I do. But you want to know what? In quarantine, that's what I do. I ran out of contact paper for the top part. So I don't know, maybe I'll order more, maybe I won't. Yet to be determined. Good morning, everyone. Things that are going on in our household. In our household, James right now is on with his class, his 3rd grade class. They started the NTI stuff yesterday, and it was a little overwhelming, but at the same time, not as overwhelming as all the teachers have it as they're trying to figure everything out. I mean, I keep getting conflicting messages from my teachers. I was talking to another parent literally just a moment ago who's having the same experience. And so I think the name of the game right now is just flexibility, patience, doing what we can, when we can, with what we can. So we got some schoolwork done yesterday afternoon. My Wednesdays are a little different because of having this live feed at this moment. Usually we would be getting ready to go outside on a walk. Things going on in our household. As I posted yesterday, we did set free some of the crayfish from James's 3rd grade class last night. I have to admit that James is pretty sad about it. I think he was sad mainly because the crayfish represent like his class, and he used to have them with his class, and this awareness that he's not going back to school. I also know that there's crawfish, and I don't know the difference between crawfish and crayfish, but I am saying crayfish because that's what the teacher told me. And I want you to know I don't really care, and I don't know if I know. I want to know if I want to know. Other things going on in our house. We're taking tons of walks. I actually recently did a screenshot of Google Maps of all around our area, like a radius around our house, and we are marking off all the streets we've already been on, and we have this challenge of we're gonna walk down every single street right around our house. I'm listening to Brene Brown's podcast, and they're amazing and just delightful. And I hope delightful in like the feeling heard and seen. So I hope you're doing that too. I also want to name that we need to celebrate birthdays. It's a Wednesday. On a Wednesday night at church, we would celebrate birthdays, and we're way behind. And so I actually have a list because Andre gave it to me, and I'm going to quickly name by first name all the people since I've last did birthdays, which was that first Wednesday. So happy birthday to Knox and Navy, Carolyn, Sylvia, John, Mary Ellen, Alana, Everett, Kathy, Michelle, Ed, David, Ginger, Amy, Jim, Doris, Nathan, Henry, Tony, Larry, Mark, Charlie, Emmanuel, Tyler, Ruth, Brandy, Hazel, Will, Paula, Bo, Colleen, Nicole, Ruby, Nancy, Philip, Anderson, Nelda, Kim, Rachel, and Crew. So happy birthday to all of you. I will tell you I'm not going to sing right now on live feed, but happy birthday to all of you. That includes people whose birthday will go into next week until next Tuesday or next Wednesday. Happy birthday to you all from us as a staff. We're grateful for you. This morning, what I wanted to share with you was thinking about Holy Week. We as a church are people who are be doers of the word, right? Doing and action is really important to us as a church. But in this season, doing active things that we can do for one another feel limited. But also in Holy Week, I actually feel like it's even more extreme for the fact that in Holy Week, what is miraculous has little to do with what we do. Now, we put on a wonderful week of services usually. And Kathy Collier would tell you she doesn't feel passive during Holy Week. She's usually extremely busy. She has been really busy, so has Austin, even in this season. But for a lot of us, Holy Week is a time where we witness what is going on more than we actively participate. So I've been thinking about witness. What does it mean to witness? Jesus sends the disciples out into the world to witness. We see that at the beginning of Acts, to be witnesses of all these things. And I think that in Holy Week, actually, our greatest task is just to be a witness to the story. I wrote about this in the newsletter for yesterday, that maybe it's fitting this year that we're even more aware that during Holy Week, that we are witnesses of the story. We don't make the story. The miraculous thing is nothing that we are doing, actually. It is all about what Jesus does during Holy Week, where God is during Holy Week. Today, you'll see our post that we put on the Facebook page for Holy Wednesday about this imagery of one who is a midwife of justice, one who God as deliverer. And it's this imagery of a midwife helps the birth of something happen. But at the same time, the midwife isn't the one who is in labor. The midwife plays a part in that, but is not the one who is laboring. In this season, we of Holy Week especially, we don't actually play as active of a part in the story. If anything, actually, if you look at those who try to play an active part in the Holy Week story, do you hear Collier yelling James's name? I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. It is what it is. If we look at those who try to take an active part, we see what it looks like when we try to be an active role in Holy Week. Things like when Simon Peter pulls out his sword. I mean, how much do we, when we witness the pain of someone we love, want to pull out a sword and chop off the ear of the person who is doing it? And yet, Jesus is the one who says, put your sword back in its sheath. And then, of course, Peter later denies knowing Jesus, which is an active role of trying to protect himself. On the one hand, he's first trying to protect Jesus from all that's going to happen, and then he's trying to protect himself. He's trying to take this active role in the midst of all of this, and yet it's as if Peter is constantly having to learn this isn't your place to take action. Or you take even Pilate. Pilate tries to help give Jesus an out, asking questions, trying to set up to say, hey, if you want to if you want to get out of this, if you want to save yourself, here is this opportunity. And Jesus doesn't. Jesus doesn't seek to save himself. So even when we try to help others save themselves, and then they don't, it's as if we are being asked to be witnesses of this story and not just take this active part to save Jesus, to stop the hurting, to stop the suffering. As I mentioned before, I had read through the book of John and Lent, and when I was looking back at these stories, it seems like the people who almost are doing what Jesus has asked them to do are the women who are weeping. The women who are weeping by the cross. They aren't trying to stop Jesus from Jesus doing what Jesus is going to do, but they are weeping, they are witnessing, they are present even when it's really hard. There is an active role for the disciple whom Jesus loved, that Jesus asked that disciple to take care of his mother, as if maybe during Holy Week, we cannot stop Jesus' suffering, but we can take care of one another as we are witnesses, that when we know we will need extra care, that we take care of one another, that perhaps that is our active role. All of this feels so passive. This is a time, both in Holy Week and in the season of COVID-19, that it can feel really passive, that we just have to accept and allow what is happening without this active response or resistance that we're used to. That usually if we know someone who is lonely, we actively go to them. We actively seek them out and meet them for lunch or do various other things to take some active role in ending their loneliness. And right now, actually, we can't. We have to let them know that we love them and care for them, but we become witnesses of one another's pain and suffering and one another's weeping, but actually we can't stop something from happening. I mentioned also before that I had some light reading recently. Moltmann's The Crucified God. And one of the things that he says is talking about, he says that essentially Jesus's death on the cross is this quintessential Christian piece of our theology, that without it, our faith isn't Christian. It just doesn't hold. And he says that Jesus's ability to love to the point of rejection and abandonment is a type of love that we actually struggle to love to that depth. We want to love from the depths of our being, but actually love to the point of rejection and abandonment is a love that we struggle with, that we need Jesus to show us because we can't actually often do it on our own. It reminds me of the verse in 1 Corinthians where it talks about Paul's resolve to know nothing except the crucified Christ. This to be a witness, to know nothing except Jesus, who is active in this Holy Week. I read 1 Corinthians a lot when I lived in Durham. And so I thought of this blog that I wrote at Easter 2017, I guess it would be. And so I went back and I'm going to read it. I realize I've been reading a lot of my old writing lately, but it's also because it's where I go back and I realize I've processed something and something was really important to me and it still is. And I thought it better in a previous lifetime than I do right now. So I'm going to read it. It makes such sense that we resort to eggs filled with candy, bunny rabbits, elaborate lunches, and our finest clothes. How else would we function without a few simple rituals while we immerse ourselves in the violence of Good Friday and the absurdity of Easter morning. I read the Easter story to the boys last night. In place of our regular bedtime books, I told them of bitter weeping and swords and clubs, the crowds and the single kiss, provocation and condemnation, pointed fingers and shouts of rage, denial and silence, isolation and public execution. The boys' eyes grew wide and their little bodies so still, which note that's meaningful for our boys. They're never still. But I remember they were still. They were captivated, confused, and even a bit scared. They kept pushing for me to turn the page and read one more story, as if that next page might resolve the tension or provide some absolution to the violence. But I knew this wasn't possible. The next page merely added another layer to the complex mystery, whose miracle exists with wounds still fresh. I knew that the story of our resurrected Lord is one of a breathing but punctured body at the hands of human atrocity. I too still struggle with Easter. Would I turn the next page of scripture, of some theological book, of some experience, of some sermon, and will I finally find resolution or absolution? Will I find full redemption of human brutality that eases the Good Friday reality? Our dualistic culture, my human mind, and even our clearly delineated Holy Week rituals would have me choose Good Friday or Easter morning. But that would be an oversimplification, a falsehood, an illusion, the kind that dissolves us upon use. And then here's a quote from Karl Rahner. In the ultimate depths of his being, man knows nothing more surely than that his knowledge, that is what is called knowledge in everyday parlance, is only a small island in a vast sea that has not been traveled. Hence, the existential question for the knower is this: which does he love more, the small island of his so-called knowledge or the sea of infinite mystery? What does he love more, the small island of his so-called knowledge, what you know today, what you understand today, or the sea of infinite mystery, all that you don't know? So I wrote, on this Easter morning, I resolved to know nothing. I resolved to see the irony that knowledge, the very gift of humanity and God's creation, is that which puts the crown on my head and causes others to bow and worship my undeserving feet. I resolved to pray, forgive me. And unrelenting footsteps pounded on the ground, running to the tomb to offer some small gift as if it could resurrect the ones I'd kill. I resolved to know nothing except Christ crucified. I resolved to proclaim the crucified and resurrected Christ, a truth that defies human wisdom, appears as total foolishness, and yet is the mystery that saves me hour by hour. I resolved to receive any understanding of this mystery as gift. I resolved to accept revelation as it comes and be content with its finger pointing to the greater mystery beyond my reach. This Easter morning, I pause and give thanks for the revealed gospel on which I stand and the mysterious sea I worship. It is fitting this week, this Holy Week, that we witness the story more than actually put it all on ourselves. Put it all on as in put on all the worship services and all the effort and all the action, but that instead we have to passively witness, which is still an action, but there is a chosen passivity to that action, so that we do not fix the cross. We don't domesticate the story. We do not tame all of it, because we know that the good news of Easter morning doesn't wait on us fixing the cross. And also that the good news of Easter morning cannot stop even if we try to fix the cross during Holy Week. That we can only sing a full-throated Alleluia if we are able to receive the cross, to witness the cross, to give thanks for something we can't understand, to give thanks to the God who does what we can't do, which is a love to the point of rejection and abandonment. It's the same in parenting. I have to witness my children more than fix my children. I have to allow them to be in mystery. I jump in when they're going to hurt each other. I try to, at least. It's impossible, but I jump in when they're going to hurt each other. And I jump in when I know they need to learn something and grow and they've got to do schoolwork, right? But others, it's a lot of witnessing. It's a lot of seeing them and trying to allow myself to let them be, to allow them to be without me intervening, and to witness that and choose that actively, choose that passivity actively. Next week after Easter, we'll be sent out with a mission. We'll be sent out that Jesus gives us as mission to go and tell all people, to be disciples, to be people of resurrection. But this week depends on our being able to witness what Jesus does during Holy Week. And that is required for if we are to be sent next week. We have to know this week that we're not God. We have to know this week that Jesus is the only one who can endure the cross. It's not me. The best I can do is to weep at the cross and to support others who are weeping even more than myself. And so know that there is joy in all of this. There is joy in knowing that the God who we need does not depend on our activity. The God who we need will still be the God who is this Holy Week, because this God has come in the flesh of Jesus and will go to the cross and will be resurrected. And this will all happen as we witness it. And that is great news. It does not depend upon you. It does not depend upon me. It depends on the God who is coming and living with us. So let us witness that. Let us come on Easter morning with a full-throated alleluia for the God who is, the God who we cannot stop being God. We cannot chop off the ear and stop this. We cannot deny enough to stop it all. We cannot make sure that Jesus has a way out, that God is God. So as you go through the rest of your Wednesday, may you find a time to witness the story and hear it all again anew. We look forward to being with you, both with the other 10 a.m. Live feeds, but then also with Maundy Thursday on Thursday evening with Lauren and Renee. And then Tenebrae, which will be shared at 7, and then Easter morning. So I love you all. I miss you. Know that I would always rather be with you than do a Facebook Live, but this will have to be for now. So I'll talk to you later.